Marz, what inspired the name?
That's a good question. I mean, the name kind of came from, really the 80s, all the cool things of the 80s growing up. And I was on a train ride with a good friend back from Montreal, and we were just kind of spitballing, what are the cool things that inspired us to do what we're doing today. And it was obviously, monsters, aliens, robots, zombies, not in that order, and there were a few other names thrown in, but once we reordered them, it just stood out for us.
That's cool. So when did you decide to start your own company and venture out away from where you were working previously?
I had my own company in around 2002, but I always knew that I was going to have a VFX company. When I first went to Vancouver Film School, sorry, my dog. I went to Vancouver Film School, I kind of knew that I was going to start my own company, and that was inspired by really George Lucas and the ranch. Like I always envisioned, having a place in the country and being able to have your own VFX company there and kind of love where you work and be inspired by the surroundings.
What was the first project you got as Marz?
Really the one that did it for us was HBO's Watchmen. That was definitely it. That was the one that kind of put us out in the in the world as, this is who we are. And that was a special project for us. And for me personally, it was even more special because I worked on the original Watchmen with Rorschach, and we thought when we were pursuing it that they were going to have Rorschach in it, and then we soon realized he's not going to be in it, but they had another masked individual, and we just kind of gunned for it. We like to what we call hunt shows, so we kind of did a lot of tests and whatnot and chased that show down, and fortunately we landed it.
And that show has some incredible VFX, especially the masks, which you worked on, the reflective surface.
Yeah.
That had to be a nightmare to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we had to basically team up with another company, William White's out of Toronto, and come up with a prototype camera that would capture kind of the surrounding areas and live takes on the day. So whenever the actor, like Don Johnson's in shots, he's interacting with the Looking Glass character, and the Looking Glass character doesn't have that mask, he doesn't have that reflective mask, but he has basically like a balaclava that's like a green screen, and we've put a camera on his head that would capture the front and back to capture the whole 360 of the environment. And we had to put a remote head on it essentially so we can be off screen and turn it on and off in between takes to capture the live takes, and then put those live takes back on top of the reflective surface when we created it back in the studio in Toronto.
So is that the one that helped you land Marvel, that particular one, or was it the broad?
Yeah, I think, that was a big one because, we have to do what's called facial tracking for every shot that you see the Looking Glass, and it had to be pretty perfect. And it's a similar, task that needed to happen for WandaVision. But I think in general, we just kind of made our mark pretty quickly. And it's all about relationships. This industry is very, much about relationships and your brand, obviously, and the fact that you build up a great reputation of quality. And those are kind of the things that we gunned for. And we threw a few events down in LA for our clients and invited people that weren't our clients to those events, and they just become a little bit of a schmooze fest, and you're showing your work and just building those relationships over time and grinding away until you knock on the door enough times somebody gives you that chance.
And you did all the vision work in the show, is that correct, or the majority of?
Yeah, the majority of it. We started off with episode 1, all the black and white of episode 1, and that's pretty much all us. And then it just kind of trickled out from there. They liked what we did early on. We turned shots around fairly quickly. And eventually we kind of became the template, so anyone else who did vision in the show, they were kind of pointing to us as that's the standard that everybody has to hit.
And that work landed you a nomination.
That's correct, which we were very grateful for. So yeah, an Emmy nom, as well as Umbrella Academy as well. We received an Emmy nom for that one too.
Yeah, and I was going to head there too with the Umbrella Academy. You're now going into season 3. Have you been there since season 1?
Yeah, we were there in the beginning, and again, we were very fortunate to be on the show, and that show just kind of grows. It's one of those things where not only do we like to hunt shows, but when we're on a show, our focus is all about impress, and continue to kind of build us as a major vendor on the show. So we're not satisfied with just being a small piece of it. We just want to keep impressing and turning around volume at high quality so we can get more of the show.
You've worked with DisneyPlus and their show, Netflix, and I also see that you worked with Apple TV for C.
Correct.
How does it feel being able to get out there in all these series and work with pretty much the big dogs in the business?
Yeah, I'll add Amazon to that and HBO for Watchmen. So, it feels great, but it takes a lot of work. Like, we never started there. We started with obviously HBO, Watchmen, and it's always a sell because the executives come and go. So you're always having to impress whoever's there at the time, and just it all comes down to your body of work. You just got to make sure that you hit that high bar and your body of work speaks for itself. And and the other thing we've done probably very well is we focused on technology and innovation, and I think that's really a key to a lot of it. Not only do we focus on TV, but the innovation side, and we've kind of become known as an innovative company. And if you have some high bar technical challenges, come to Marz, because we have the talent that can solve those technical challenges.
And that led to creating an AI, if I understand correctly, to do some of the heavy lifting for you guys.
Yeah, that's correct. That was, we touched on something called virtual production, which is starting to be pretty significant in our industry, where you basically have these giant LED walls and you can build 3D environments live on the day, so the actors are acting in front of these LED walls. And we tested that technology. We just didn't find that it did what the studios were asking for. So, we can see there's a large amount of content. Content wars are just starting in premium TV. All these new people are coming to the table, like Apple, you mentioned, the Peacock Network, to name a few, and obviously DisneyPlus, and them pulling their content off Netflix. That Netflix needs to now infill that content. So there's this massive war happening, and they all come to us and say, how are you going to solve this capacity problem, this worldwide capacity problem? There's just not enough artists to be able to do all this content. And when we look at virtual production, our conclusion is it doesn't solve that problem. So we looked elsewhere and landed on AI, and that was first time we used it was on WandaVision. That's where we kind of landed on that for one of the tasks that we did, and we seen the results of that, and that's where we decided to let's double down, triple down, and go really hard on that side of things.
And all this work is now leading you where most of your project previously have been in the TV series, you're now branching out into doing more movie work than you previously did.
Yeah.
And we can't really talk about the titles you're working on, but there's some MCU stuff going on.
That's correct. And that came out of the WandaVision relationship with Marvel. So, for us, it was, again, just trying to get a foothold into Marvel. Because that is like the high bar quality for everyone to match. They're consistently, every show is just cranking it out at a high level, and it's so satisfying to even be a fan to work on anything like that. So, that show was so important to us to just make sure we did what they were expecting and more. And we knew that if we do that and we impress them, that, we could potentially get on more Marvel shows. So, definitely, I guess our strategy initially, we call it kind of the beachhead. Our first beachhead was premium TV, because most VFX companies have their hands in multiple areas, commercials, TVs, film, and we just wanted to put all our focus and attention on television. And once we kind of get a good grasp on that beachhead, then we expand from there, and that's where they started coming to us with other opportunities to work on film. And when you're talking some of these projects that Marvel's coming to the table with for any opportunity, you can't say no.
Now, there is a movie that you said you can talk about a little bit, and that's the new SpongeBob movie.
Correct.
So is that going to be integrating more of the characters with real life, or is it still going to be more an animated side of
Yeah,
things?
no, it's they're going to integrate the SpongeBob characters into live action plates. So it's, you know, that's why they've called upon us as a VFX company. That's with Nickelodeon. And yeah, that's going to be another great opportunity for us, because, you know, the next pivot for our company is to get into character and creature work and try to solve the problem of bringing character work to premium TV, which is really, really hard to do. And even though it's film, we're thinking with a mindset of how can we do it efficiently and effectively at a high level and do it very quickly. So yeah, that project's going to help allude to us solving more innovation problems for the industry.
When you look at movies and all the TV series, what's your wow moment and VFX wise? Like when you look at it and you're like, wow, that shot is outstanding, whether it's your work or somebody else's work.
Yeah, I'm a fan of all VFX. I mean, you know, I think, you know, it's a mix. It's like, you know, when you look at shows like Mandalorian season 2, there's some, you know, the TIE fighters, you know, moving through the terrain, some wow moments there, because I know how hard that is to do, and it's fully CG stuff and it's executed flawlessly. So that's definitely a wow moment. And then even when you look at some of the stuff that we've done, I think we've handled it really well with Watchmen, for instance, is a wow. And I go back to even the original stuff. Like I look at what I did in 2009, 2010 with Rorschach, and it still holds up today because it's heavily scrutinized back then. I was the supervisor on the show, and I know I scrutinized it to the point where it will hold up for a lifetime. So, you know, when I see work like that, that looks like it's integrated extremely well, you just know it's going to last a lifetime. It's always going to look great.